In this module, we'll examine the public education system in the United States, attempting to describe the issues associated with the government's role in both K-12 and higher education. Further, we'll assess various policy reforms that have been suggested to address school quality issues. To start, we need to understand what are the goals of the government in education policy. Take a minute here and think about why should the government get involved in educating the public? For the government, education policy is a means of intellectual development, civic education, and ultimately workforce preparation. These goals are complementary to our economic goals of economic growth and full employment. If we consider these goals more specifically, education provides an avenue to ensure the contribution and the continuation of U.S. democracy. Basically, if you know how to read and write and think, you can be active and engaged in American democracy. Education also allows people to learn and become part of the American or the U.S. culture. Finally, some argue that better educated individuals are better able to secure jobs that raise the economic and social status. The Department of Labor puts out every year statistics which show that higher education is correlated with greater earning potential over one's lifetime. So do you buy these very specific goals of public education? Well, some critics today argue against them. They need to be considered in light of current economic conditions, like coming out of our economic recession, as well as dealing with undocumented migrants and assimilation. In the United States and most countries, education is viewed as a positive externality. Remember, an externality is a ripple effect from this behavior or the transaction between two actors. In this case, it's a positive externality where we invest money in our youth today, educating them and giving them a skill set. Ultimately, we get the benefits of that, of them being contributing citizens to our democracy. There are a more capable workforce to fill jobs that are necessary and ultimately pay taxes. And thus, by doing so, there is less need for public support, like welfare and food stamps. In the United States, education is viewed as a right and guaranteed by the Constitution. Well, sort of. The Constitution does not explicitly guarantee a public education. However, every state in the Union has an education article which guarantees some form of public education. Once a state decides to provide education to its children, this provision must be consistent with other federally guaranteed rights through the 14th Amendment to equal protection. This is further guaranteed and controlled via funding from the federal government, these intergovernmental transfers. As such, we often hear in the news and in the media conversations about whether the children of illegals should be granted a public education. Well, because of this, we go back to a Supreme Court case of Filer versus Doe, which ultimately came out and said that, well, if the state law says that all children must attend schools until a certain age, well, the 14th Amendment kicks in and offers equal protection. What's interesting about education in the United States is that our Constitution does not explicitly guarantee it. It makes us unique in that education is found in 174 other constitutions of countries around the world, whereas ours tends to be guaranteed via our American states. What's problematic, and what we'll get into later in this module, is that although an equal, free, and adequate education is guaranteed, this says nothing about the quality of the education, and thus you get significant variation from one state to the next.